Thanks for tuning in. This is Stomper Be Thompin'. In this video, we're talking all about the 2024 KTM 300 XCWs. So, in this video, I'm going to have plenty of riding. I'm going to give you my likes, my dislikes, talk about my riding impressions, especially since I put almost 70 hours on a 22 300 XCW. So, I'm not going to be riding too intense. I am still rehabbing a shoulder injury right now, so I can't quite go race pace. I do have a long list of modifications planned for this motorcycle. Most of it just being bolt-on stuff, but that's going to be a separate video later on. For now, I wanted to ride the bike in its 100% stock format. I didn't even put on grip donuts yet. I actually didn't even set the sag yet, so I just ran out of time before getting out here. But so it's set for maybe a rider that's 20 pounds lighter than me. So this will be my last time riding it in its fully stock form, but I figured I might as well to get those first impressions. If you're in the Mid-Atlantic and looking for your next toy, I really hope you check out Blue Ridge Power Sports located in Harrisonburg, Virginia. All their information is listed in the description below. If you're after a Honda, KTM, or Can-Am, they've got you covered. They have brand new on and off-road motorcycles. I'm talking sport bikes, cruisers, adventure bikes, dual sports, trail bikes, competition motocross, enduro, and cross-country bikes. They also carry sport quads and utility 4x4s from Honda and Can-Am, in addition to both brands' side-by-sides or UTVs. Check out their website or call a sales rep for their current and incoming inventory. With Blue Ridge Power Sports, it doesn't matter if you're there to buy a little Honda CRF 50F for your Munchkin or a top-of-the-line, high-dollar sport side-by-side from Can-Am. Every customer is treated as if they want your business and for you to return in the future for your next machine. And you can rest assured, everything that rolls off their showroom floor has been assembled with care. They also carry all the best brands, both for you as a rider and anything you need for your new toy. I really hope you consider Blue Ridge Power Sports for your next purchase. Trust me, you'll have a great experience. Just got done riding. Make sure you stick around to the end. I've got some observations. Make sure to check out my previous video. In that I talk about why I'm switching from the 4-stroke KTM 350 XCF back to the 2-stroke. So I'll have a link for that at the end of this one. All right, jumping right into the likes and dislikes. First like, transmission. It's still a 6-speed, but they got rid of that awkward gap between second and third gear. So on the 22 TPI, first and second gear were ultra low, which was really great, but racing hare scrambles and stuff, there was this weird gap between second and third gear. So they've made the XC and the XCW transmission identical, but they've just changed up the final drive for each one. This is a 1445 if I'm not mistaken. So I'm really excited about the transmission. You still get plenty of grunt down low in first gear. You can go through that tight technical slow stuff, hard enduro type riding. But the spread is much more predictable and normal for racing hare scrambles. So I'm really excited about these closed cartridge forks. Now I am just a C-class rider, so take my word with a grain of salt, but a lot of people who are pretty darn good at riding on the old YouTubes are claiming that these forks are a vast improvement over the Explorers. So I'm hoping they do really well, and I'm very excited to see how they do in the race season. Hey, check this out. They finally come with a skid plate. Now, this isn't nearly as robust as a lot of the aftermarket's going to be, but at least it helps you buy into their motto of race ready. So I'm sure the aftermarket is going to have more substantial options, more protection, but at least it finally does come with a skid plate to give you a little bit more assurance out on the trail. My next major like is that all the adjustments to the suspension are 100% toolless. So you've got clickers for compression and for rebound up underneath, all toolless. Oh, hello. And even the PDS is also toolless. So I believe this is your rebound down here, and you've got your high and low speed compression just using the clickers right there. So that makes for fine tuning the suspension a lot easier when you're out on the trail. The LED headlight is a massive upgrade over the previous generation's halogen bulb. That was a pretty weak bulb, and this is much better, though I am not a huge fan of the bright white color. I wish it was a little bit warmer. Maybe that can be changed with aftermarket. Also, the switch is an upgrade over the previous plunger type thing that they had. It's now just a simple button. The previous one was kind of tough to manage with gloves on at times, and mine ultimately broke, so hopefully this new button mechanism is going to be reliable. One of my next likes here is the PDS, the Progressive Damping Shock. And okay, I'm probably going to reveal how little I know about linkage and PDS here, but here's some of my thoughts. Part of my reason for picking this XCW over the gas or the Husky variant is that I wanted the PDS. I'm a big fan of the simplicity and the low maintenance nature of the shock. I understand there's pros and cons to PDS versus linkage, and that the PDS has gotten a lot better over the past decade. But honestly, I wonder sometimes how much of that I can really perceive at my current skill level. I'm not clearing 60-foot doubles or flying off a dragon's back. I'm just trying to be a C-class hood rat with my boys here. I honestly cannot remember disliking anything about the PDS on the 2022 that I had. That said, again, I'm not a suspension expert, so I'm likely missing something here. I'm curious what your thoughts are on PDS versus linkage. Maybe you can comment below. So for my first dislike here, and fair warning, I'll be reaching for some of these dislikes, is going to be this fuel tank pump and pickup location. It's a bit odd being higher up and in the center. Now, I understand wanting to help protect this component by moving it from down low up to here, but I'm hearing from others to be wary of running a little bit too low on fuel due to this location. But then again, I'm sure the KTM engineers have figured this out. Like, the time will tell if that's really an issue. Seems like not a big deal so far. So many reviews of this bike dislike the start-stop button, stating that it is hard to push due to its small size. I honestly don't really mind. It's something to consider, and there are aftermarket solutions out there, but honestly, this is the same exact setup I had on the 350 XCF, and I never had any issues with that. I really do not understand why KTM would not offer a map switch for this model, even though the exact same map switch comes stock on the XC and the hard enduro version of the XCW. That's a total head scratcher to me, pretty lame in my book, but I don't know, maybe it's because this 293.15cc engine is already slightly detuned with different mapping compared to the XC. I'm just not sure about that. And lastly here, at least in this initial review, I hear the throttle body injection is less efficient than the transfer port injection, which means we may get slightly less range on a tank for this latest generation. Not a huge deal though, just something to note. Can you tell I'm really starting to reach for these dislikes? First observation after riding, and just a warning to all you headphones users out there. She is one spicy girl! God, I forgot how snappy these 300s are. Oh, a little spooky at times. I had the 22, then I had the 350, all in about the same horsepower range, but wow, man, exhilarating. Okay, bring her down a notch. You're gonna lose some people. Next impressions here are going to be on the transmission. Earlier I said that I was very excited that they went to this new like semi-wide, wide ratio transmission, whatever you want to call it, this 6-speed, and that the gearing's all pretty linear and kind of normal feeling. There's no odd gaps, and that is definitely very true. My only observation I want to make is that on the 2022 XCW, first and second gear were ultra low, especially like first gear. I rarely ever used that. Maybe on a really muddy hill climb where I failed it halfway up and it really allowed you to get up. But I did stop halfway up some of the steeper hills around here and I was able to just clutch right out in first gear. Now traction's pretty decent right now, so just that can be fixed with gearing if you really want to. So just an observation that a little bit taller in first gear. Now my next observation is going to be on the suspension, specifically the forks. Now maybe I'm a little bit excited because, you know, I just had a great ride. It was a lot of fun. My first time riding in what, 2 months now since I separated my shoulder, and so that's exciting. But I want to say that this suspension is, ooh man, this is right in a sweet spot. If you're a little C-class hero like myself, racing hare scrambles, I think you're really going to like this. It's definitely noticeably stiffer than the older XPLOR forks, but not by like a substantial amount. I want to say that it's definitely less stiff than the 350 XCF, which is geared a little bit more towards motocross. So I'm super pleased with the suspension so far. So I'm looking forward to maybe playing with the clickers a little bit and really getting it dialed in. So my last observation is really going to be about TBI, throttle body, versus TPI, transfer port injection. And I don't really have a lot to say here. Now, I've never ridden a carbureted two-stroke since I was a kid maybe. So I haven't ridden a modern day carbed two-stroke, and I don't really have anything to compare it to. That TPI bike, the transfer port, was ultra smooth and predictable. I personally loved the way that that bike delivered power. Now the TBI, quite honestly, maybe this is due to my experience level and skill level, I don't notice a huge difference between the TBI and the TPI. It does feel maybe slightly more rowdy, but again, that could just be other people's reviews online, like making their way into my head. So if you're coming from a TPI bike, I think you'll be pleased with how this TBI delivers power. So my final observation will be about the agility and just the way the bike feels between your legs. I would say it is very similar to the 350 XCF. I believe they are very similar platforms as well, like chassis and everything. Obviously the suspension's way different, but just the way your feet fall onto the pegs and how the grip feels on the bike is very similar. It's definitely not worse than any modern bike I've ridden.